All right. Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank you all for coming out and getting on board with this new way in Toastmasters. As you know, hybrid meetings is the way of the future. All right. Whether we go back to in-person totally or not, hybrid is the way of the future. So please have your questions ready. We have a team here that's ready to answer. I will turn it over to Mr. Herman, who is a member of the Northern Knights and the A Taste of Success Club, where they are already doing hybrid meetings already. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Mr. Herman and he will introduce his team. So thank you, Edward, for taking the time out to train us and educate us on hybrid meetings. Thank you.
Good evening, welcome everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right,
Yes, sir.
very well. Madam Zoom Master, do we have this recorded yet? Perfecto, thank you. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Eddie Herman. Tonight's meeting is all about better interaction with the use of technology as we move through this pandemic. Hybrid meetings are going to be the thing. If your real life hasn't demanded them, it very soon will. To help you understand both the organizational and the technical aspects of a hybrid meeting, I will have two presenters come up and they will help dazzle you with all of their awesome experience, with what we have experienced as a club, as part of Northern Knights Toastmasters, and most importantly, start to interact with you on how to get you more comfortable with approaching the topic of hybrid meetings with your clubs or with your organizations, period. We're going to have a poll requested here shortly. The information that is being presented here will be supplied to you in via documentation at the end of the meeting. So we have a lot of this. You don't have to worry about committing it to memory, as you will see the demonstration, and you'll be able to get a grip on the exact equipment that's being used, what we recommend, what we found, along with all the pricing and all that information. So you'll have the documentation at the end. You need presenters, you need information. They have both. The two people that are responsible for presenting tonight are going to be Drew and Donis. Donis is an executive director in her daily life, and this is her place that we're meeting at, not unlike a lot of the rooms that we have been accustomed to with our Toastmasters meeting. Donis meets here with her boardroom. I'm going to ask her to come and introduce herself, and without further ado, please help me introduce Donis Mahan and Drew Kesterson. And I hear applause. Come on, this is yours. All right.
Good evening. As Shed mentioned, hybrid is the way of the future. There's so many advantages that we have learned from combining folks in the room with folks in Zoom, and we want to highlight some of those and specifically how to do them. Just a reminder, as Eddie had mentioned, all of the information is going to be sent to you. Specific information about the equipment, pricing information, links to where you would actually order the equipment. So there's no need to be frantically writing notes. To communicate with us, it's best to use the chat feature. Tonight, because of the size of the meeting, we would ask that you would put on mute, but turn on your video. We don't want to have any of the distractions of all the background noise, but we do want to hear from you. So please interact with us via chat. What we would recommend if you're hosting your own meeting is always have someone in the room that can read the chat aloud so that those folks who are in the room can also be participating with those that are coming via Zoom. Your objectives tonight are to review the do's and don'ts of hybrid meetings, as well as to go over all of the equipment. So Drew, you're going to come and join me over here. Drew is our equipment expert, and as he shows out the different levels for the various meetings, I'm going to pipe in for how I've actually put this into work, not only at club meetings, but also in my work life at various board meetings and committee meetings. So one of our first polls is going to talk to you, is going to give us some information on how you have already had experience with hybrid and what you're looking for, because tonight we want to give you the information that is most helpful for your specific situation. So that's going to be our objective tonight. The conversation just going to get started. We want this to be as interactive as possible. So again, having your video on, it's awesome to see your faces. We do have a number of laptops in the room as well as our main projection. You might see a whiteboard. You do not need to read that. That is just how Drew and I see the gallery view and see all your great faces paying rapt attention to what we're saying. You'll notice right now is our first poll. So if you could please take a moment to read that and answer appropriately, and that will give us information on how to organize the rest of the information for you.
I want to let you know the poll will have all of the questions. So you're going to get all the questions and answers at one time. It will not accept your answer until you've answered them all.
Okay, once we are, is someone answering our poll? We'll be able to get the results once everyone's answered. So Terry Ann, if you could just keep us informed when all the answers have come in and what the results are, that would be great.
Joanne is taking care of the poll right now. Joanne, when you see that the majority have done, you can go ahead and close it and hit the word share results.
We're at 82%.
Okay, he's not answering. And I would think that's a pretty good level for us to get at least a handle. So why don't we go ahead and share the results? Okay, can we see that, Drew? What does it say? Because I can't read that part.
Okay, overwhelming result is, with your experience with it, over half of the group, 77% have participated in a Zoom meeting, 62% have hosted a Zoom meeting. 3/4 of the group has someone who is technically savvy enough. The other 21% have a 10-year-old who can do it for them. The biggest concern is understanding the technical requirements, and then to a lesser extent, getting the organization used to technology. There are some other concerns. I'm guessing the equipment is coming through on chat as another concern, which we're going to address very well tonight. And then 72% say this is not just a Toastmaster issue, it's a more of an organizational issue. So 28% are very Toastmaster focused, but the other 3/4 are all about other meetings as well.
Wonderful. We are going to answer specifically those questions. We have these specific equipment needs, and we're going to go from the most basic to the good, to the better, to the best. So all of those questions will be answered. You know, one of the beauties of hybrid being the way of the future is, you know, it snowed last night. The streets are getting a little icy. We can continue with this meeting. We did not have to worry about, will we cancel it because of the weather? As many people as are uncomfortable getting out on the road can stay home and Zoom into this meeting and continue as scheduled. We also can get a broader range of participants. So you no longer have to be limited by geography on who you can have at your meeting. It's a wonderful way that has been discovered by this worldwide pandemic requiring it, but I think is going to help us be even more productive and effective as we move into the future and utilize these skills. The very first level we want to talk about is actually the most basic level. When I started conducting my board meetings via Zoom, you know, all of us were in our homes and had laptops. When we did our first hybrid meeting, we just basically had a few people in a room with laptops, connecting with the folks at home via Zoom. What we found the challenge with that is the feedback that you receive when everybody has their laptop mics and speakers on. So we quickly learned we had to jump into the next level. And Ruth's gonna start us off on what the first level of equipment is that you might want to consider to host a more professional hybrid meeting.
Well, before we go, thank you, Donna. Before we go on to that next level, I've got to say, I love laptops and I love cell phones. These are the most versatile pieces of equipment we have, and better because they're versatile, that's great. But two things, you already have them and you already know how to use them. So definitely, wherever you're at, incorporate what you already have. Before you buy anything, go get anything, pay for anything, utilize what you already have as a resource. So the key to great video content is always going to be great audio content. I can't hammer that enough. That's why everything we're starting with tonight is going to go audio first and then video secondary, always. So let me just hold up. This is you see it here? So it's basically a low-end conference microphone. It's a couple of levels below this. It's $20 to $30. This is going to give you the same thing, your cell phone, but just higher output and a little more input than a cell phone on speakerphone. That's it. So kind of going, so when I eliminate that, if we can do that with a cell phone, what's our next step? Okay. Rick, did your coax already do this?
Yeah, we do that.
Okay. So this is a directional microphone, and this has a couple of cool features. It's directional. I would recommend you actually have one of these at home. You have incredible voice quality, and you're not going to hear my 1-year-old in the background yelling for whatever is important at the moment. However, in a meeting sense, this is not omnidirectional. Omni being it's going to pick up everything around. It's directional, so it's going to be focused on wherever you want to subject that sound. It can be used in a hybrid meeting with a lectern. For instance, there's a couple clubs that do use it like that. You manually just kind of point it to whoever's speaking in the room and then point it back to the room. So
And it costs that's about $43.
it's about $43. There is a downside of this. Like I said, it's a directional microphone. So if you can kind of hear everybody laughing in the background while someone's speaking, the online audience is not in on the joke. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. Be in on the joke. You incorporate your online people who feel like they're in that meeting. They need to be in the meeting. They need to be in on the joke.
If you are using this setup to get the online folks in the joke, you would want to repeat that. So there's just some common etiquette that you want to consider when you are hosting a meeting, depending on what your microphone options are. You want to read the chat so the people in the room can feel a part of the folks online. And for the folks who have this one directional microphone, you're going to want to repeat what the folks in the room are saying or the jokes that they're telling. So it can still be effective.
Right, so every speaker has to come to the front of the room.
Right, when you're doing table topics, you would have them come to the lectern and speak into this microphone.
So I want to jump ahead a little bit, just to throw out, utilize resources you already have. That's huge. A lot of event spaces, libraries will already have conference phones. I love these things. Everyone's familiar with them. These new conference phones, they pick up high definition audio completely. The room could be double the size of this, and everyone could be heard quite well with the conference phone. These are very pricey. They're very pricey monthly for an organization. However, if use the resources you already have. Apps.
Stop for a second. People are having trouble hearing. Are people having trouble hearing?
Okay, I'm walking.
Yes, when he steps forward, but when he steps back, we hear him really well.
Correct.
What's awesome is that you are experiencing one of the audio challenges that you can have with some of the options that are presented, and you can see how to avoid some of those challenges. So great example, Drew.
I love the idea of you presenting closer to the mic, move the microphone here in the that was closer to me. There you go. Because them being able to see what you're holding up is that.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
Okay, we ready? Northern Nights. Well, we love our lecterns. We absolutely love our lecterns. However, we got to be in on the joke. So one of the higher end, I think we're about triple the cost of the other stuff here. So anytime, let me go back to the basics here. When you have a microphone, you have two microphones. You got to have it combined. And once you do that, you need it's what's called a mixer. It gets complicated, it gets pricey. However, there's a lot of solutions out there now. So basically, you tether mics together, so they're acting as one. Therefore, you're avoiding that dirty feedback loop. And one of the ones we have, I love this thing. It's good. You connect via Bluetooth or USB. USB is our best friend. It connects to anything on your laptop, anything you're looking to purchase. If you start with a USB connection, that's as simple as that. And if you get a 30-foot USB cord for $10, therefore you're eliminating Bluetooth connections coming in and going. So these two, they connect to one another. And what's perfect about this setup is I can have a 30-foot audio cable connected to it, and we have one at our lectern and one in the center of our room, and therefore the audio quality is especially good for the presenter. At the lectern, it's been a fabulous solution for us. We can connect to Bluetooth, but my favorite is just USB. It's plug and play, no configuration necessary, ultra basic, but it gives you that high quality audio from the lectern that you're not necessarily going to get with any other speakerphone to that degree. So before we go on to any video, what do we got in the chat going on?
So people are concerned regarding being able to keep up with you with some of the technical information that you're presenting. I'm going to upload the PDF document to the entire presentation so they can follow along at home. If we need to adjust a little bit to go back to some of those, we can.
Absolutely.
I'm encouraging you guys, we'll do a lot of Q&A. So we're eager to get out of the, eager to get the conversation going to where we interact with you. For now, we're going to give a presentation of not just the equipment, but a little bit about the basic practices. From there, we're going to come back to some of your questions. So give me a moment, I'll upload the PDF here shortly.
What Eddie is going to be uploading is actually bit by bit of each piece of equipment that Drew has shared with you, what the name of it is, what the equipment number is, what the price is, a link to get additional information about the piece of equipment and its specifications. So all of that information you will be getting, and I believe Eddie's sending it to you right now.
All right. What's your experience with video?
With the video, okay, when we first started, as I mentioned, we each had laptops. Then when we were getting all the feedback, we thought, okay, let's just do one laptop and then have some people in the room, some on Zoom. And I would take my laptop when it was time for the treasurer to give the financial report, and I would just turn it so that it was then facing the treasurer. It was not the most professional way to do a presentation and to run a board meeting, but it got the job done. And as Drew mentioned, let's just get started with equipment that we have and equipment that we're comfortable with. It was only 1 month of doing board meetings with the pivoting laptop camera that we realized we needed to step up. And so that's when we started with the wide angle camera, which is what you see us on right now. You can see behind me, this is my board table. So I would have my treasurer sitting over here where Rick is, socially distanced. I would have my chairman of the board so that everyone could see them, socially distanced. I'd have my chair-elect. And then as I brought other staff members to do reports, I would have them back by those French doors giving their presentation. So the camera would catch all of that, all the activity in the room. I would then be on my laptop out of view of the wide angle camera, socially distanced from everyone, and I'd have my cell phone camera on. Okay, is Eddie doing that right now?
That's how I am.
Exactly how Eddie is.
I'm on the laptop.
Okay, with it muted. So that way I would be able to interact with everyone on Zoom and in the room. I would be able to read the chat,
share that with folks in the room. And it was really all just with a laptop, my cell phone, and this wide angle camera. That's how we began.
All right, let's talk about that wide angle camera. We went big time for this presentation. We went super big time. This camera cost, what was it? $22. Yes. I love this camera.
Under 30.
It's under 30 bucks. I've actually bought around 10 of them at this point because it's great for YouTube production. It's ultra portable. It's got a little tripod stand that connects, screws right into it. And for video, we also considered with Northern Nights purchasing a $300 video camera that had just a better focus, a little bit better view. Could not justify the cost. Did not justify the cost. And it's almost been about 9 months to a year now since we were in that position. And the technology is evolving and getting more economical by the day, especially when it comes to microphones, to cameras. That's why I would very hesitate to overspend in that category. Definitely just what do you need? What's your goal? What's your objective? And just get the bare necessities, because a year from now, it's definitely going to get better. And just in 9 months, the cameras are just going out the wazoo on quality, and the price is going down. And like I said, what we're broadcasting here is under a $30 camera. It's plug and play. I've got one in my backpack, one in my briefcase for on-the-go video conferences. I love it. And that's why I want to start with that. And that's basically my recommendation. I wouldn't go higher than that video quality. It's got everything I wanted to do. And with for $10, you get a 20, 30 foot extension. Therefore, we could have this camera anywhere in this room positioned we want it to be. And that brings the online audience, not just the laptop view, but feeling in the entire room, being in the space with us, being a part of the meeting. So there's not two separate meetings. There's just one separate meeting. And that was our biggest challenge when we started doing hybrid meetings, was there was two separate meetings, the online group and the in-person group. And by bringing in the additional cameras, everyone, whether it's Rick walking through the door back there, you feel like you're there. You get that. Your community gets that. It's absolutely, I can't say enough about that.
Absolutely. So we added that wide angle camera, the under $30 one, and we didn't add the speakers to it yet. So the challenge we had in that situation is that my microphone on my laptop was trying to pick up the people in the room, and folks online could not hear them. So that's where the combination of the two. We currently are using just a Bluetooth, about $100 that we paid, multiple microphones, multiple speakers, so everyone in the room can hear everyone online, and everyone online can hear everyone in the room. I really can't imagine needing anything more than this $30 camera, especially for club meetings, certainly for any of my board meetings. The clarity is fine. Really what we want to be able to do is see who's speaking and then hear them. And so the audio is so important.
Yes. Audio is the secret to great video production, whether it's a Zoom meeting, whether you're producing a YouTube video, that audio's got to be spot on. And if I turn my back to this, the audio is going to go a little bit away from me speaking. So are we ready to move on to projectors, screens? This is what we're using here. I'm sure you guys can't see what we're Epson. So this one's a little warm, a little noisy, but it's under 200 bucks. And we've got it broadcasted just on a screen. We don't have a whiteboard. It's just a wall. It looks great. You can do everything you want. And this goes with our hybrid meeting in the bag philosophy. We're trying to make everything simple. We can have it in a backpack or a briefcase almost, and just take it with you anywhere you go. This technology, just like cameras, a few years ago, this was $2,000. And now you get a high-end projector for $150. It's unbelievable, to the point where I've actually just thrown the ones I had about 5 years ago away. They're irrelevant to what they can do now. It's unbelievable. again, it goes back to using the resources that you already have. Any extra TVs around are great. Just HDMI, you broadcast it, and we could share that one screen with the hybrid meeting optimal setup here.
Rick, do you have that? I don't know if I can share the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go ahead and share here. I got it up.
Just to kind of give you guys a visual of what we found to be like, okay, this is the perfect setting. It's also the setting Donna uses in her boardroom, which really works out.
It is so important to be able to project the Zoom gallery so that the folks in the room really feel a part of what's going on the online meeting. And it's such an easy setup to hook the projector in through the HDMI cable into a laptop, hook the camera onto the other HDMI hookup, and then the Bluetooth speaker, and you're set. You know, one of the things that you always want to make sure when you're hosting the meeting is that you get to the meeting early so you have plenty of time to test, not only for in the room, but then dial someone in to make sure that your online participants are going to be able to hear and they're seeing everything that you expect them to see. Just a little extra setup time is going to save you headaches that could arise throughout the meeting.
Good question coming in from the audience. Do we project the chat in the room? Norma De Leon.
No.
We usually don't. Purely,
How do we get that in?
that's where you want someone to be at the laptop reading the chat so that everyone can be at the same spot. Sometimes those chats come in fast and furious. And when we have them on the wall, if we project them, that gets very distracting to the person who's presenting or the conversation that's at hand. That's why it's so important to assign that. We call them the Zoom master at our club meeting, but someone to be in charge of the chats to incorporate those in, read them aloud, and really do the timing of the interaction appropriately for what's going on in the room.
And so, Terry Ann, I've asked you not to spotlight for this one. Let's go ahead and spotlight the HPC boardroom, just so the speakers are still featured next to the slideshow. Sure.
So this is actually my favorite slide because in the poll we projected at first, 3/4 of you have someone in your club, in your organization, who's pretty familiar enough with this setup, with the technology, to help you out. And that's absolutely key. When we're talking about not having the chat put up, you have whoever's in your room, organization, that's their job to convey that, all the behind the scenes, what Eddie's doing right now. If you chat with Terry Ann or Rick, they're all doing the behind the scenes. So one person just to do that, it makes all the difference in the world. Back to resources. People are always our greatest resources when we choose to use them. And definitely always, that's huge right there. Another part of this setup you'll see is multiple cameras. In the rear of the room, where I can see everybody I'm talking to. Therefore, when I'm giving a presentation, speech in Toastmasters, or at my office when we're going over the budget materials, I can speak directly, and I'm looking at faces as well. I'm seeing, okay, how is this being taken across? What's this big idea now? I need to see that when I'm giving that presentation. Also, when you're introduced to videos in the room, you could get to the point where if you're hosting the meeting, you could run the meeting not being actually in the physical room. By putting someone on the big screen, everyone who happens to be in the room, they're just an extension, and you could run a meeting without actually being in the room. That's a big part of that dual projection on the screen here. Another thing you'll see is a bunch of laptops, and that wasn't just a mistake. We didn't do that at the beginning. However, with our meetings, we've encouraged everyone who wants to bring their laptop in. Muted, everything else. If they want to have their video on, off, that's fine. However, for that direct communication, so again, you don't have two separate meetings. It's that hybrid, combining the meeting, everybody on that same page with being able to direct communication with the people in the room, as well as on the Zoom platform or your whatever webinar platform you're using.
We got 15 minutes on time check.
Oh, also, Time, I can't reiterate that enough. We've done this probably 20, 30 meetings now, and time, even tonight, time, set up time, because it will go wrong, it will malfunction. And internet, I got to cover this one too. I've worked in telecommunications for over 20 years. You've got to have a good internet signal. If nothing else, a little trick I've used in the past, use your cell phone just for audio. If you do that, it'll be fine. What takes up all that bandwidth is video by far. Audio takes up next to nothing compared to your video feed. Without having something that prioritizes that traffic, that makes it, like, the audio go out first, that's really what I kind of do for a living, is set up networks and provide that quality, make sure the audio is good way before the video is good. We don't care about that. We want that crisp audio first, and you don't get that with most networks. Therefore, a way around that could be a cell phone connected via Bluetooth to your speaker with no video feed. Therefore, the only data it's using is just for that audio stream, and that will usually provide a better audio source than a great internet connection that's being utilized with YouTube videos and whatever else the office staff is doing that day.
And so guys, look for information in the next meeting after this. We'll be talking through Zoom. They'll give you the how to connect your telephone so you can save your bandwidth for the video feed on.
I'd love some questions.
So the format that I recommend, guys, go ahead and unmute yourselves and jump in. We want to work to that in the room type feeling. So unmute yourself, jump on, first come, first serve.
Edward,
Yes, Ed.
this is Shed. Just we can what if all day. I just want to say you have to find out what works for you. The first meeting is going to be something that you have to work through. For instance, even with this training tonight, we had to see that you had to move the microphone around and stuff like that. How big is your area? So you still want to start out with the minimal equipment, and then as you see what works for you, that's when you start advancing, or do we want to purchase this out of our club budget and things like that. A lot of libraries already have the projectors and the screens, so that's something you can probably look at last, but you definitely want to have 2 computers starting out and things like that. And then as you see what works for you, that's when you start growing. It's all about what works for you. The first meeting, just like all of us when we first joined Toastmasters, our first meeting that we walked into, how many actually wanted to join Toastmasters? No, it took me 3 or 4 meetings to finally say, I want to join. So with this hybrid, find out what works for you and your club and then go from there. So great job, guys. Great job.
Absolutely, and that's why we gave you a number of different options so that you can have the conversations about what do we already have, what's going to work for the room where we have our club meetings. We're all different. So take a look at the options, take a look at the paperwork that's been sent your way, see what makes sense, and jump in. Take that first step. You're going to be tweaking it along the way as you get more comfortable and as you see what doesn't work as well as what does.
Do you offer what you think the priorities are? What would you get first?
Oh, 100%. I would just, like Sid just said, okay, before we buy anything, we freak out about how much something costs. What do we have? What do we have to work with? Utilize cell phones and laptops are awesome. They're versatile. You already have them and you know how to use them. It's awesome. Use it. And before you buy anything, I would always go audio, 100%. Video, we're doing this under $30 for the video production, and I use this for multiple YouTube, everything we do. Video is always secondary. The more the better, but audio is always top quality. You know, audio is your key to great video production.
So a couple of things to help Shed break that analysis to paralysis that you're going to inevitably do when you first start this. We know that we actually pitched this idea 6 months ago. We opened it up to the entire district, said whoever wants to come, whoever needs a hybrid meeting, Drew and I will help you. We'll help you stand one up. We'll bring the equipment. All you got to do is show up.
We'll physically come to you.
How many offers did we have? How many? We got zero. Zero clubs stepping up. We flirted with one, but everybody was helping out. Look, there was more than just I am apprehensive about technology. There's obviously the pandemic fear. We want to make sure we're cautious. But the second option you have is join a club who's already doing hybrid meetings. Go visit one somebody.
Yes, actually, that's how we got half of our ideas. Like, if we didn't mess it up ourselves, we joined other clubs and watched their meetings. What's working for them? Like, what hasn't worked for them? Reaching out, Springfield meetings did a few of those. They were one of the very first meetings to do hybrid, and I love what they're doing. They've got members, past members, that are all over the country, and because of the hybrid format, they're sticking with it. It's not going away. And it's been incredible to see their club growth and sustainability because of it.
All right, good question from the audience. Optimal internet speed for the host. I love this one. This is my favorite question. That is my favorite question.
As good as you can get wherever you're at.
Yeah, and we wanted to, it's actually attempted with a hotspot. We wanted to play with that at this point and find out what options we have. You need a sturdy internet feature. If
you're just going to do the audio though through a hotspot, 100%, you'll be fine because you're not taking that video and drowning out your audio quality. So you'll be fine just using a cell phone. Just if you're using audio only through that method. But as far as like whatever your internet connection speeds at home, if it's a coax modem, you'll want to at least do 100 by 10 if possible, just because you need that upload speeds as well for the video portion.
So a comment from the room came, hey, can I use my cell phone as a hotspot?
Yes, I used it all day today as a hotspot.
Correct. The hotspot to run video, and I have everybody else connected to my hotspot, and I'm running Zoom.
I would run a hybrid meeting, but I would definitely join a Zoom call through a hotspot all day long.
I get it. The difference is your phone is now the hotspot. Can your phone handle being the internet connection for the hybrid meeting? That's what I understood out of that question.
Yes, because this is all happening in the internet, the cloud, far from us. When you're hosting a meeting, that's still just your individual connection that to and fro. That's it. Just because you're hosting a meeting with hundreds of people, that's still your connection to that cloud. It's hard for me to convey how that works, but yeah, it's not like you're taking on all that bandwidth and resources through your local connection. You're tying in to an existing internet connection, internet that's being hosted somewhere far, far away, and you're just tying into that. You're not, those resources aren't your computing power, no.
What if other people are connecting using the hotspot, your phone, in the room where the people are physically present? Would there be data limitations?
Then that's where it starts to tie down. Yes.
And that was the question.
Okay.
So let's make that distinction. The answer is you can use your phone to join a Zoom call. But if you have other people working through your phone as the hotspot, you're running into some major bottlenecks.
Don't do that.
Phone can take you from out to in, but it really can't work from in to out, right? Because there's just too much of a bottleneck on bandwidth.
Yeah, absolutely. Your phone is limited.
I've seen comments about 5G may change that. Great.
Well, where we are right now, still that's down the pipeline. Yeah, for as long as you're hosting a meeting with your camera, your setup, that's fine. When people tie into there's no reason for other people in the room to tie into your hotspot. No, that's a recipe for failure because you're going to start dividing that up quickly, and it's going to degrade the signal, degrade the audio quality, the video quality. There's no purpose for that. Everyone's got a cell phone. They could turn on their own hotspot for that matter.
All right, so this just came in from Cheryl Reynolds, who is part of a Taste of Success.
Toastmasters, yes.
That's right, and Cheryl says she's used her hotspot with multiple devices, 2 or 3 computers, 2 or 3 tablets connected, and has a cell phone signal that is safe signal. Huh?
And she has a cell booster.
I do cell booster because I'm at the lake, but I haven't usually had problems. Occasionally, if I do have an issue, I'll split my signal between 2 devices. I have I have 2 hotspots, 2 tablets that work as hotspots, 2 phones that work as hotspots. So I'll split that signal sometimes, but most of the time, my primary hotspot will handle it all. And Zoom is a
That's
pretty
awesome.
fierce hog, and it still handles it.
Yeah. I have not had that experience. Once I've shared mine with about 2 or 3 other people, that's when I start having the lag where the camera can't keep up with the movements, where the audio's out of sync a little bit. But if you can do it, use the resources you already have. That's where we all start from. And if it works, it works. Use it until it breaks. Then add on another hotspot. Yes.
Right.
So, good question from one of the participants. How are members in the hosting room hearing the audience on the call? What happens if people talk over each other? People via Zoom, I'm assuming, David, you're asking what happens if people who are on Zoom start speaking all at once, everybody all turning on their mics, is that correct? Can you clarify for me?
Yeah, everybody starts talking. It's actually triggered because I noticed Dan and Rick are on, they have headphones on, and well, the rest of us don't. So that made me think, well, what's happening here in the room? Does Rick hear everybody like I'm talking right now? Is he hearing it stereoed? Or if people just literally just start talking, they get into a disagreement and everyone starts talking all at the same time. How are you guys picking up that?
We can all talk at the same time. And hey, your call if you can hear us. Go ahead, Rick.
So, David, we've had to turn off the audio on all the other computers. There's only one source for the audio on this. So if the hearing was tough, it's because we only have that one source. Because if you have more than one source, you get into feedback issues. So you saw me with my headphones on. I just have been too lazy to take them off.
And that's not only a microphone, it's also the speaker.
Yes.
And Peter makes a wonderful point. Your Toastmaster has to take control of that meeting. It's like any meeting where they start talking over each other. Someone's got to say, be like Joan Brown of the meeting. Boom. Lower the boom.
100%. Yeah. If that starts to happen during any of our meetings, I'm mute now. If I hear someone's dog barking, just kill it. So during someone's role, you leave them unmuted, but for the most part, everyone's muted during the. You're trying to speak. There's no really any reason for you to chime in at that point.
It's another wonderful advantage of the hybrid meeting or Zoom meetings overall is it's teaching us basic etiquette that we shouldn't speak over people. In this setting, you're only going to be able to hear one person. That one that they grab is, I don't know if it's the loudest or the quickest or how it makes the decision, but it gives us an opportunity to practice waiting until someone's done with their thought before we add ours.
We covered a lot tonight. What's stuff that's still like, okay, I saw what you did. I'm looking at your presentation. Where's still the bottleneck? Because there's always a point, the limitations. I'm still not getting it. There's still, what's the hesitation?
Question from the audience. Can I use an old smartphone as a camera or microphone when connected via Wi-Fi?
Yeah, of course. That's a great use of resources in the room. You could use that for multiple purposes. You could have it to bring people in the room. Every camera angle you get, give 2 or 3, get people in the room. So it's a one room. I highly recommend it. We will usually bring 2 laptops in a room. If I'm recording the meeting, I'll have a separate laptop, and that laptop has 2 functions. One, it's logged into its own Zoom account, and it's doing the recording. As well, it's got its own camera that's showing the room during the meeting as well. So yeah, it's existing resources, no need to buy anything else. Anytime you can do that, like Shed alluded to, what do you already have? Let's start out with what we have. Ask other members, hey, this is what we need. And a lot of people have old cell phones that they could, and the best part of cell phones, their cameras are just about as good as what you buy online. They're absolutely incredible cameras now.
Except for Shed. The Shed does not have a camera on his flip phone, I don't think. Or he may. Some of those newer flip phones did. There is a short answer, however, you can use it for audio, Shed. So your flip phone, if it's got a speaker phone, you can still use it for audio.
I was just joking.
That's how we lose control of the meeting.
All goes to pot from there. All right, we're 15 till. Your next meeting is not for another 15 minutes. And we do have quite a few more thoughts to share. We always want to hear from you and want to hear what the sweetest spot is in your concern, on your radar. So what do you think? You ready to do hybrid meetings?
Just start. Just start.
Exactly, take the first step.
But you'll figure it out pretty quick.
So what is your, that's a good question. What is your obstacle to the first step?
Once again,
Finding a place to meet.
yes.
Place to meet.
I was just speaking with the Hereford House, actually. I was doing a bunch of work for their locations throughout the city up in the Zona Rosa this morning. And they are opening up like private rooms, contact restaurants. Libraries are still a little finicky right now. A lot of restaurants, though, they'd love to have groups. If you're willing to buy some dinner, a couple drinks, they'll give you a private room.
Roller skating rinks.
What?
Roller skating rinks.
Hotels, churches, yeah.
Yeah, just call, ask. There's a lot of places out there that are really struggling and looking for alternative revenue sources, and they're more than happy to open up those. They're not opening up the grand ballrooms; those are still closed off. Just down at Crown Center the other day. However, the private meeting rooms, the smaller ones, they negotiate those.
Yeah.
They would love to have business, just like the restaurants. They would love to run out a lot of the rooms because they're limited on their in-person dining. And their numbers are low already.
And look at member resources. If, the company's members work at, if there's a room, a conference room that can be used.
That's open to the public. And a lot of the bottlenecks we've come across is our rooms are open, not to the public though. Like no guests, no visitors. So that is a big thing. There's just like for resources, you got to start by asking. What's available. Location is huge right now for a lot of organizations and clubs. But there's a lot of retail space that's up in the air right now that they're now able to move, and it's just a matter of giving call it.
Yeah, it sounds like for tech support, everybody's gonna look up Peter. Peter Pfizer, he's got a handle on this.
I want his number too.
Peter's our lineup tech support. He's like, it's easy once you get the go ahead from once we get through all that I want to be safe thing. Technology is easy. All right,
Exactly.
Peter, you're in.
People are complicated. Technology.
Edward, I wanted to say something. I mean, this is the time you have to start thinking outside the box. Even, we're talking about different locations. How about at someone's house that has a 2-car garage? You can set up your car garage in a horseshoe configuration, invite, 4 to 6 people over to your house, have a Toastmaster meeting, and get this set up, and just do a little trial run. So I know we're looking for venues and things of that nature like that, but we all live in a house, unless, anyone that doesn't live in one, but just set something up in your garage and say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna invite, 3 or 4 people over. Let's see how this works.
Great idea.
Yeah, resourceful. That's the name of the game. Just get started. Number one, be resourceful. Resources, old cell phones. I love that. Resources you already have. Hey, if you're not even using them, that's even a bonus.
And the shed can attest an outdoor meeting, like the park, like Junction City did. Weather's going to be nice, hopefully, in another 6 or 7 weeks, 8 weeks.
And yes, I can take more than 3 or 4 people at my house. So.
All right. This concludes our presentation, I believe.
Actually, if I can butt in for a second, I would like to make a couple comments on, we are all in new territory right here. This is almost like the relaunch Toastmasters. There is no such thing right now as a fear of failure. Anything that you go out and try is something new and worth doing. Nobody's ever done it before. We're in new territory. So it's like, give it a try. There's okay, that didn't work. Let's try something new next week. If that didn't work, let's try something new the week after that. It's, this is the time. I mean, we're going to be the trailblazers. We're the first people on Toastmasters. All of the district leadership that you see on here, they're doing stuff that Toastmasters has never done before. So now is the time we get the chance to reinvent Toastmasters. This is the new future. Let's go out and reinvent and come up with what Toastmasters is going to look like in the futures.
Absolutely love that, Peter. Thank you so much. You're right. We are the trailblazers. Last year, all the issues of Toastmasters International, not one mention of the word hybrid. I did a word search for every document. Not one mention of the word hybrid meetings in any issue last year, 2020 Toastmasters International. So yeah, it's up to us. If it's to be, it's up to me and you to start. And that's where it all gets down to. Just start and get people in the room and see what works, see what doesn't. Either way, to thrive through this, to make it your own, we got to do it. You got to change, got to adapt. And it's not that complicated. You will run into a lot of snags, audio issues, something that's not going to work. We, like everything else in life, two steps forward, one step back.
So I want to jump in here. This training came about because of the area directors in Division L said this is the kind of stuff we want to see. We were talking about other types of traditional Toastmasters training. They specifically asked for Zoom 2.0 and hybrid meetings. So we heard that, we put together this training. This didn't come out of a manual from TI. This came from our district. So I'm going to echo what David said. We got to, as Shed always says, adapt or die, because this is a relaunch of the Toastmasters brand here in the Kansas and Missouri area, if not across the entire country.
Thank you. All right.
And I personally,
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Toastmasters.
Yes. One more thought.
And
Go ahead,
I
David.
think Toastmasters is now more important than ever, because everyone used to have a fear of speaking and getting in front of a group, but now it's all Zoom based, and you want yourself to look as professional as possible in this little Zoom square. So it's, it's even more important to learn how to speak in this Brady Bunch view than it is behind a lectern.
Yes,
Julius,
sir.
thank you, David, for those words. And folks, what it has done for me personally is really made me more deliberate about the image that I'm presenting. Obviously, I now have the technical piece that I have to add to it, but we put thought into what is the angle that we're presenting with. For example, for me, we had to rig some of the equipment to make sure that it gets me close to an in-person feel as we can, and still use technology. So that's one of the major ads. You'll find your own challenges as you go through. Madam Zoom Master, do we have time for one more? I thought I saw somebody flash across the wire. Do I have time for one more, Terry Ann?
I'll let you take one more, sure.
Thank you. I had somebody flash something via chat. Question or comment?
Others comment that think Facebook Live might be another option. YouTube, LinkedIn, those will do the most.
Beautiful. More options. Do we want to take a break before we come back for the Zoom meeting, Madam Zoom Master?
Well, really quick, Terry Ann, do you need a break or do you want to jump into it? The one thing I'm going to tell you, Toastmasters, I don't believe in wasting your time. I know we're all giving up our evening, so it's up to Terry. And we need a 5-minute break, we can take that, or we can jump right into the next event so everyone can enjoy the rest of it. It's up to you, Terry. You need 5 minutes?
I'm ready to jump in. If everybody wants, if I jump in, we can leave sooner. How's that?
Okay.
Can I have one thing real quick?
Oh, Dan, go ahead.
Just real quick, like Rick said, this was an idea that came from Toastmasters members, clubs, area directors. If there's other things like this, let us know. So whatever we can do to make things a little better, to present whatever education offerings you would like to see, just let us know.
I just have one more question. Should be answered quickly. So I noticed that some people like to record themselves. So with these additions of this new equipment, are we just going to say for folks that are in person to use their cell phone, or are there other options when it comes to recording that speech just for that segment and then, giving that over to them.
Here, okay. So we record our meeting, and then we upload it to, we've got a Gmail account, also the Division Toastmasters. If you upload it to the cloud, and then we chop it up afterwards and email it to the speakers. So that video file's huge that comes across. Therefore, if you chop it up to that 5 to 8 minute speech, and then you just email that to the person, and they get to review that as well. One of the things I'd like to incorporate more is recording the mix with the see people's reactions. I can watch my speech all day long, and I know how good looking I am, and it's nice watching myself. However, I need to see the reactions as well. If people are falling asleep, big yawns, or if they're just like, tell me more. And that's going to be a big part of it going forward on how we record as well. But yeah, we record every meeting we do, and then it doesn't take much to chop it up and then email the person who did that speech that file.
Gotcha. So just record the entire meeting and then just take the segments that you need for those speakers so that they can receive that feedback and get better going forward.
Absolutely, yes.
All right. Thank you.
All righty. With that, I want to thank Edward Herman and Rick and his crew for doing an awesome job on the hybrid meeting. I appreciate you guys taking your evening out and educating us more. We will have more training on this also for the future. The district, the trio is listening, so please send your ideas, all right? We've already got interview techniques in the works. We have more hybrid training, more pathways training, so please, anything you're interested in, please send us your feedback so we can work on that and do some training in the coming months and the next year, all right? So we are here to listen to our members. That's the motto of our trio. We are here to listen to you. You guys make us. So without further ado, if you do not know Miss Terry Ann, then I don't know what district you're in. All right, District 22, Miss Terry Ann is our PR person, and she does an awesome job. Don't know what we would be without her. So she's going to lead our next segment of the Zoom 2.0. She's going to go through her presentation. We're going to be watching the chat room for her, but she's going to have some question and answers at the end. So please welcome, I bow down to Miss Terry Ann Porter.
Oh my, let me see if I can get my screen shares going just right here. Okay. Share screen. This one, share. And if I'm looking right, you can now see what I'm seeing. Is that correct? Somebody tell me yes, because now I can't see all of you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
Yes,
perfect.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Queen.
Now, this is a tough act to follow, you guys, but I'm going to try. In this portion, we're going to talk about Zoom. We're going to take it a little bit beyond just going to a meeting and attending a meeting. I'm going to try to bring in a few other little features. Let's do a quick review of the meeting setup, waiting rooms and passwords, chat, file sharing. Then let's get into some room management, polls, and breakout rooms. I would like to ask you to hold off your questions until the end, because you may find out that what your question is now, I might be able to answer just a little bit later. And that way we get everything in there, we get all done, we can leave early. So let's get started. First of all, a quick review about Zoom, using Zoom for meetings for clubs. Now, this is going to be addressing a lot to the division directors, because you are the ones who are creating meetings for many of your division clubs. Some clubs have their own accounts, but if you're working especially with multiple clubs and timings, you're going to have to know some of these little features. And don't you hate it when you're trying to do something that doesn't work? Profile. On the profile page of your Zoom account, Scroll down a little bit and you will see a little thing down here called a host key. And you'll notice it's a bunch of stars. It stays hidden like a password. Click on show and make note of this number. Now this number does not change. So once you have this number down, just make a note of it because you're going to be sharing this with the club officers as you prepare their meetings. So let's now go ahead and plan to create the meeting. You're going to go to meetings, schedule a meeting, give it a name. Best procedure would probably be the club name. When do they meet? Set a date there and the time. Club meetings are going to be recurring, so you click on recurring meeting. This works really great. If, for example, your club meets every Tuesday at noon, so you can go into recurring meetings and tell it every Tuesday noon. They're all created. Neat thing is, they've all got the same link. So you don't have a whole bunch of different links. But what happens if you end up with something like my club, Tower Talkers? We meet on the 2nd and 4th Thursdays. Now, in order to use the recurring meeting setting, we would have to create one meeting for the 2nd Thursday and another meeting and another link for the 4th Thursday. So now we got 2 links that we're playing with. Boy, I hope as VPE I send the right link out. This is how I get around it with Tower Talkers. I select recurring meeting with no fixed time. This now creates one meeting, one link, and we use the same one all the time. This does require a little bit of extra work on the part of the person responsible for the overall account. For example, the division account. Because there's no date on here. So it would be very easy to go ahead and create another club who's coming in on the 2nd Thursday because they don't notice it in the list of meetings. So you're going to have to find some way to keep track of your meetings so that you can know each club when they meet in their links. I was recently talking to somebody who made a comment. I notice every time I come to your club, it's always the same link. Is that on purpose? Yes, it is. She said, my club doesn't do that. I highly recommend doing this. It sure does make the whole job so much easier if you have one link for your club. Okay, returning to the creating the meeting screen. Now, because you are creating a meeting for someone else, someone that's not going to be getting into your account to start the meeting, there's a couple of things that you need to make note of. One is, do not turn on the waiting room. Make sure that that is unchecked. Then make sure that you do check, allow participants to join anytime. With this checked, that means that if you send me that link and I click on it at any time, I can go into the meeting, as long as there's not another meeting going on. But this needs to occur in order for them to be able to start their meeting. Also, you need to note that when there is no waiting room set up, there has to, no two ways about it, there will be a password. Because with Zoom now, you must either have the waiting room going or a password. Because we're turning off the waiting room, you will have a password. Did you know that you can change the password? It automatically generates one. But if there's one that you think would be really easy for your club to remember, you can go ahead and change it to that. If it is an alpha word, for example, if I were to choose district as a password, somebody calling in on the phone would just have to do the numeric translation of it. Now, once you've created the meeting, you're going to save the settings. You can go back and click on Copy Invitation. Now, when you do this, you will get this link, which, by the way, if there is a setting in the defaults that the password can be embedded in your link. So all they need is the link and nothing more. Or you can turn that off and even with the link, make them put in a password. When I copy the invitation to send to my club members, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but here's a big list. And down below here on this screen is at least 10 phone numbers from all around the world for people so they could use the phone to call into your meeting. We don't need that for our club meetings. All I do is I copy the Zoom meeting link, the meeting ID, the passcode, and I might copy the first phone number. I copy and then I paste that into my message to my members and say, this is how you get in. Don't put any more information in there than you need. Now, remember that host key I mentioned earlier? Now is when it's going to come into effect. I've got the link from you and I've gone into the meeting. When I go into the meeting, remember it said anybody can join anytime, so the meeting is already open. But there's no host. You see, I'm the host of tonight's meeting because I went to the district account, to the meeting, and I started the meeting. This didn't work this way for this particular club meeting. Click on the participants word in the menu bar. For me, on my PC, it's on the lower part of my screen. And on the bottom of the participants, because there is no host, is the word claim host. Now, my division director has given me a host key. I'm going to enter that 6-digit number in that box that comes up, and then click on the word sign in to claim host. And then I become the host of the meeting, just as if I had gone into the account, found the meeting, and clicked start. Now, as the meeting host, I have full control. Who are you going to give this information to? It could be the club secretary, president, their sergeant at arms, Zoom master. Work that out with each club member, with each club, and see which member they want to make that available to. I would not give it to everyone in the club, but then that's just the way I am. Now that that person is host, click again on the participants, and there's 3 little dots. And here are some of the different controls that you have. Now, if you want to use the waiting room, now you can enable the waiting room because we have a host to control the meeting. I personally turn off the play sound when someone joins. I think that sound gets to be annoying. You can allow the participants to unmute themselves, but if it's an event, perhaps where you want everybody to stay muted and you want to control who is unmuted, you can change that as well. I typically choose mute participants upon entry. That's just a favorite of mine. You never know what people are doing when they start to log in. Then there's that other feature called lock meeting. Does anybody have a meeting maybe in an office building, and then after everybody comes in, they go and lock the front door? Nobody else can come in. That is what this lock meeting does. So you can lock it and no one else is going to come in. In the hybrid meeting, a very important thing was mentioned about a good use of the waiting room. When we are meeting in person, we have the courtesy, if we see someone is speaking, to stand back and wait until they're finished with their speech before they go in. With the waiting room, we can continue with that procedure. Oh, I do need to point out a couple of things. One, while phones and tablets can access the Zoom meetings and some of the controls, they really are not very effective in controlling a meeting. Now, I have had people say, oh, I do it all the time. Personal opinion, that little screen and all the controls are not visible. I highly recommend using a PC. The images, the screenshots that I have captured are all from my PC. A Mac will have these same types of things. They just may be located in a different place. Okay. Now that the meeting's created and the host is assigned, let's do a quick review of chat. The host can choose what kind of chat is allowed. If you are having a meeting that you don't want any chat, on the bottom of the chat button, the chat screen, you have more. They can make it so nobody can chat. Or perhaps you want them to chat only with the host. You can also make it so that everybody can have all the chat is always public, or you can also enable the private. I got several private messages in the last portion of the meeting. Hey, did you check on this? What about that? Things that didn't need to go out public. So it's up to you as the host. Do you want everything to be public or allow for the private? The host can control a lot of things about each participant. There's two ways that you can do it. One way is by clicking on participant, seeing the list, and you'll see the word more. This little screen will come up to give you some options, or you can also, in your big gallery view, find the person's picture. There will be 3 tiny dots on the top of each one that will bring you the same thing. Here, I can make someone else a co-host to this meeting now. I can give up being the host and make someone else a host. You can rename a person. You can even chat with them without going to the chat screen. It's the same difference. We have used the allow record button. For example, at the club officer training, when the different breakout sessions were going on, we asked each of the speakers to record. So we gave them permission to record. Now, you do not have to be a co-host to record, but the co-host is able to record. So that's just something to think about. If someone's causing trouble, you can remove them from the meeting. You can mute someone if, for example, they talked about that earlier. If someone's making noise, you can go in and hit the mute button. The person who's playing the Zoom master does a lot of things behind the scenes. Now, when you remove someone, depending on the default settings, they may not be able to come back in, or they may be able to, depending on the settings, and you need to look at the settings for your account. Had an issue with this not long ago. It was, I believe, at the awards ceremony that we had. We have had robots, little artificial intelligences come into the meetings. I don't know why. We realized that they're not an individual, not supposed to be here, and we would remove them. Well, when it came time for this event, just as soon as I started the meeting, in came one. And it looked to me like it said AI. And I don't know why, but often AIs put AI in their names. Makes no sense. I immediately booted this person. It turned out not to be AI. It turned out to be AL. It was Al. Fortunately, we were live streaming to YouTube so he could watch it. Be a little careful of that. There can be some issues there. If for some reason you need a person to step away for a little bit, you can put them on hold. It's kind of like on the phone, only without the music. They're just kind of out there in limbo, and then you can bring them back when they're ready. So if you're voting on somebody, You don't have to do the breakouts. You don't have to do the waiting room. Just put them on hold for a little bit. All right, now let's step it up a little bit. That's kind of the basics. You might have known a lot of those. Hopefully you learned one or two little bitty pieces that you weren't familiar with before. Now let's step it up a little bit. We're going to look at spotlighting, pinning, polls, and breakout rooms. Here's the scenario. You set your view to speaker view. Now this shows the speaker in a large view, and the remainder of the gallery is above or around to the side. And the speaker is speaking, they're staying on the screen until somebody's microphone is on and they've picked up a cup, or they've moved around in their chair, or the dog has barked. Now their image pops in, even for just for a short little bit, but their image pops in on the screen and interrupts the image of the speaker. It may not be a problem, but if the speaker is asking for a copy of their speech so they could present it elsewhere, or if you are presenting the district contest winning speech, that is an unwelcome interference. And yes, we've had that happen. One way to prevent this from happening is to use the spotlight feature. Spotlighting can be done by the host or the co-host. Spotlighting works for everyone. If I were speaking now and not using the share screen, we could spotlight and then you could only see me no matter what noise was going on in the background. It would not change. You can spotlight up to 9 people now. We used this feature in the last club officer training sessions. If you remember, there was a panel discussion. We could have the entire panel on the screen. Comes in very handy for that. Now, something to note though, that I have learned in this, even if you spotlight multiple people, like we did the panel, only the speaker showed up in the recordings and on the live streams. The live streams only showed the one person, not the spotlighting. Zoom is making a lot of changes right now. That may change in the future, but at this point, that's how it's working. There's also something called pinning. Has anybody used pinning for their timers, for example? While the host and co-host will spotlight, and the spotlight will reflect for everyone, pinning can be done by an individual. Now, we use this often in our club meeting. I'm giving a speech. Let's say, for example, Stephanie is my timer. As long as I'm not spotlighting, I can pin Stephanie on my screen so that Stephanie is now prominent on my screen. I don't see much of myself or the gallery as much, but I don't miss the timer. But if the spotlight is on, pinning at this time does not work. Remember, the spotlighting affects everyone. Pinning affects the one participant. Let's move to polls. We had a poll in today's meeting. I'll tell you right now, Zoom has made some changes, and the change reflected in tonight's meeting. First of all, you have to use a desktop to manage the poll. Now, it used to be that the host and co-host could manage that poll, but Zoom has now made a recent change. And here's how it affected us tonight. I came in as the host. I created the polls so that they could come up. Joanne came in and it registered her. I came in on the district account. Joanne came in on the district account. It automatically made her co-host, and I no longer had poll rights. Joanne had to launch it. This is something new. It's a new setting that is in Zoom right now. I'm going to suggest before you do anything, Do a lot of practice. I prepared for this. I kept checking. Okay, there's the poll. Okay, there's the poll. There's the poll. All of a sudden, there wasn't the poll. So it was just a quick chat to Joanne. Hey, Joanne, you get to launch it. She said, okay. And it went very well. You all didn't know there was an interruption until I just told you. But I'm telling you this because that's how you end up learning what's going on and what's happening behind the scenes. Poll must be enabled in the account settings. So division directors, be sure to check the settings and that is turned on. To create a poll, when you have access to it, you'll bring it up and get a screen like this, and it will say add a question. And when you do, it goes to the account and brings up and add a poll. Now, today's poll had, 3 or 4 questions, and I did it in a way that they all came at once. So I made one poll, put the question, and did add a question and did the next question. I could have done save, created another poll for the next question, another poll for the next question. So here's an option for you. Some other features to notice. If you will look up here, the word anonymous, if you check that, when you look at the results, if you were to do some clicking, you would not be able to find who answered what and how they answered it. When you type in your poll question here, you can choose, can they make one single choice or multiple choice? The first poll question today was a multiple choice. The others were single choice. When you are all done, hit save. Then you can launch the poll and it will come up like this, which you all saw on the screen. What you didn't see was what Joanne saw. The attendees are now viewing the questions. There were at that time, I don't know, maybe 60 people there. So it said 15 of 60 voted. By the way, if you are a host or a co-host, you can't vote. It won't let you. When the time, and you will also see an elapsed time, by the way. So you can see, okay, I've given them a minute. That's plenty of time. And you can hit end polling. From there, you can share the results. And that was what we did tonight. We shared the results so that they came on the screen. Okay, let's take a look at, everybody seems excited about this, breakout rooms. The host can create breakout rooms. When you click on to launch the breakout rooms, you're going to see a screen like this. So first of all, you're going to determine how many breakout rooms do you need. Then, how do you want the rooms assigned? Assign automatically. This means that the system will now take the 4 rooms and evenly distribute all except the host and co-hosts into rooms. You can assign manually, and that's what we'll work on here in just a moment. Or a new feature that Zoom has just created is called Let Participants Choose Room. I will tell you, this is a very new feature. We've tried to use it twice. The first time worked semi-effective. The second time it didn't work at all. Lots of changes going on in the programming. So what works today or what doesn't work today may work tomorrow. Once you go to create that, I put these words as text in here. You won't see these words unless you hover over. Now you can rename the room. For the club officer training, we renamed the rooms for club officer roles. So when you looked at the rooms, you saw president, VPE, VP membership. So you can rename them, or as we did just last week in the district leader meetings, just leave them 1, 2, 3, 4, entirely up to you. If you happen to be recreating some rooms later on or decide you don't need a room, you can delete it. If you're going to manually assign, over here at the word assign, when you click on this, a drop-down box will come up. And it will be a list of all of the participants who are in the meeting right now, who are not yet signed to a room. So if I were to go into room number 1 and assign, let's say there's 15 people in here right now, and I were to assign 3 people, when I go down to room number 2 and I click on the word assign, those 3 people are not going to appear on my list. This helps to narrow my list down and does make it easier in assigning. If I didn't have enough rooms, I can add another room. I can recreate the whole thing. But I'm not going to open the rooms just yet because there's some more options that I want to work on. Clicking on options, you again have the opportunity to allow participants to choose the room. Now, one thing about participants choosing the room, this at the moment is only effective and is allowed to the people who have the very latest version of Zoom. So if they have not updated their Zoom version, they may not even see the option. I typically choose allow participants to return to the main session at any time. If there's a problem going on in the room, or maybe that breakout room finished early, come on back to the main room. I like to set the time. You guys are going into a breakout room, you have 60 minutes. When it opens, the 60 minutes automatically counts down. And the people in the room will be able to look in one of the corners and see it count down from 60, counting down, so they can see how much time we have left. Oh, and then one other thing that I choose is countdown after closing the breakout room. Because with this, it's going to close automatically, just bam. At the end of that 60 minutes, it's going to close automatically and bring them right into the main room. I like to change this, close the countdown after closing the room, 15 seconds. That way they can see, oh, my time is up. Let me finish this sentence and move on. Something I didn't make a slide, but I want to talk about just for a few moments, and that is contests and staging your area. Now, I have a phone, I have a tablet, and I have my computer. I am going to get the best spacing and staging area on that computer. But whether you're, no matter which one you are using, practice before the contest. Find your staging area. Talk with your contest master. What is working best for you? Where will you show the best, and how will you stage yourself? What is the area that you have to move around in? Test your microphone. I have a pretty good microphone on my webcam, and I could move back and around even to the other side of the room, and you would probably still hear me. Not all systems are like that. The time to find out whether or not you are staged right, or your camera works, or your microphone works is not at the contest. Last year, there were many contestant briefings that I sat in, and we went through this process. And I already know from the emails that I'm seeing come through that contest managers are already working on this. Work with your contest manager, be comfortable. My personal preference, if you can at all, even if you don't have a big monitor, at least if you have a laptop, it will be best. Not everybody has that option, but find out where you can make yourself look the best. This is your contest. So stage your area, check your mic, practice in advance. Practicing in advance is a lot of what a Zoom master has to do as well. Let me tell you what I do. I set up my Zoom meeting on my computer. I come into the meeting on my laptop, or on my, on my tablet. I come into the meeting with my phone. Now I've got 3 people. Now I can play with the breakout room because I've got 3 people in here. I can see what each one sees, and I can move them around because I've got 3 participants. I sometimes ask people, hey, come on into a meeting. You don't even have to stay. I just need a body in there so that I can practice different things. I can practice moving things around. Practice, practice, practice. A lot goes on behind the scenes. Right now, I just see that the chat room, there's all kinds of comments going on in the chat room. If somebody is presenting, they can't necessarily always watch that. You need to have other people to help you. Practice, practice, practice. I can't stress it enough. Don't wait until you get into the meeting to say, hey, I'm the Zoom master now. Oh gosh, what was I supposed to do? Get familiar with it. One thing that we did, when all this stuff started, I created some Zoom videos and we put those out there on the district website. Then we held a couple of training sessions, just small groups, and gave everybody in that group an opportunity to be a host, to be a co-host, to try to create things and see what would happen so that when they went out to a meeting, they could then say, oh yeah, I know what that's supposed to be. Practice the different roles, find out what works, what doesn't work, and become comfortable with it. I would like to host some more small group trainings over the next couple of weeks, especially if you want to help out in your contests or even in your own clubs. The goal here on the district side is to have at least one proficient Zoom person for each division. And then that division person can help the clubs in that and spread it out. If you would like to join me in some of these small group trainings, some more one-on-ones to become more proficient, I'll be happy to work with you to do whatever we can. Send me an email, toastmasters.d22prm@gmail.com. That's an awful lot in a short period of time to give you an overview. Let me stop share. Are there any questions, or did you just hey, you got it, you're all ready to go now?
Hey, Terry Ann, this is Janine.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
When you were talking about polls, and I thought I heard you say that you can only set up a poll on the desktop.
That is what Zoom says. That is what Zoom says, yes.
So I can't use my laptop to set up a poll?
Yes, your laptop, you can.
Okay, thank you.
A computer, a laptop, yes.
Were you just meaning you can't use like a phone or a tablet?
Right.
Okay.
Right. If I worded that wrong, sorry about that. Yes, your laptop, a desktop, those, yes, you can. But according to Zoom, you can't do that through a tablet or phone.
Okay, question number 2. You talked about during the breakout rooms about having the latest update of Zoom. How do I don't have like the Zoom software on my laptop, so how do I get like an updated version?
Well, then you've got nothing to update. So you're just going in like through the web only?
Yes.
Okay. I have it's not a very large file, but I do have the Zoom file, the Zoom application on my system. So that is what needs to be updated. It's like using an old version of Word. You know, if you don't get the latest updates, you're missing some of the features. I'll be very honest with you, because I've always gone in through the app. I don't know if you just strictly go through the browser, what effect that would have. We would have to try that in one of our private settings and find out how that works.
Thank you.
Hey, Terry, and just really quick, I think the updates is just for the person who has the account. If you're having a guest or something like that, then they're just coming in on that link.
Yes,
But for the updates is for the person who has actually the account.
Terry Ann, this is
It
Tim
also
Martin.
depends on if you're using the web version of it or if you're using the application. If you're just an attendee, it doesn't really matter. But if you have a host or co-host role, then it's important that you have the latest updates.
That's what I thought.
Yes, sir. Tim had a question.
Yes, Terry Ann.
Yes.
I got assigned late as a Division A director, and my question is, when I go in and update to extend the meetings out, or to, if we would set a meeting and need to go in and do some edits to a specific meeting, will that change the password and the link that's already designed for that?
If you're editing a meeting, no. No, when you are editing the meeting, you might be editing just a few little features of it, but the password won't change, the link won't change because it's already been created. Those will stay there.
Thank you very much.
Terry Ann, I don't know who else has a hand, but I just want to say, I know someone commented in the chat room earlier that they have their contest up fairly soon. If you, like Terry Ann said, you have to practice. You have to say, okay, I'm putting you in a breakout room, or you will never know exactly what to do. So if you do not have a practice time, please let us know, and we will try to have someone there at your practice to make sure that you're doing all the right things. But
yes,
before you have a contest, you have to practice. You have to have your briefings. You have to have all of that stuff done before your contest. That's just a must. You have to go through that. Or you're going to have contestants not knowing exactly what to go on. Sorry about that, Terry.
Let me answer the question. No, you do not pay extra for breakout rooms. That's part of the program itself. Breakout rooms, contests, and club meetings, I really can't think of a reason to use a breakout room except that in a contest, you're going to need a breakout room probably for the chief judge and the ballot counters. Now, they could just work through texting back and forth as well, by the way, so you don't really have to have the breakout room. But if you do, just think about this. Make sure you do not want to make it so just anybody can pop in. Do that only by assignment so that only those people go into that room. You don't want contestants and participants to be popping in and check to see what the chief judge is talking about.
You will want your contestants to be somewhere else so they don't hear the question that's being asked.
Oh, for table topics, that is true. Yes, I forgot. We are doing table topics this year. So you could do it one of two ways. You could have a breakout room. They can all be sitting in there chit-chatting. Or you could put each one on hold.
Is there a minimum number of people in a breakout room? Can one
A minimum number? No. You can have just one person in a breakout room.
Terry, can you communicate to the breakout room? Like, for instance, we have our table topics personnel in there and say, okay, send me the next one. Can I communicate that to the breakout room?
You can send a message to the breakout rooms. Now, we have found that this isn't always effective, though, because the message appears for a very short time and in small text. So we have found several cases in doing this where we've sent a message to the breakout room, but if you weren't looking at the screen right at the moment that it popped up, you may not have seen it. So it's kind of been a You know, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. If nobody was watching, then somebody else had to go into the room and say, hey, we're ready for so-and-so, and then pop back in. Now, if I'm doing it, if I'm the host and I'm recording like this meeting today, and if I pop over into that breakout room, the recording follows me. So now the recording has now left the main room and is recording me in the breakout room and then coming back with me to the main room. Always be careful what you say.
So what do you suggest? A waiting room or a breakout room for the table topics?
The
Just your
waiting room,
suggestion.
the waiting room will be the same issue. Now the waiting room, nobody will be able to talk to each other. You will be able to send messages. Any of you people who were in the waiting room before we started the meeting, anybody in here who was in there, did you see any of the messages that I sent through to the waiting room? You did see them. Okay, good, Lori, that's good to know. Anybody else? We've had mixed reviews on that as well. Sometimes the people saw it, sometimes they didn't. The waiting room people cannot respond back. Breakout people can respond back.
And for your contestants, you'd want a sergeant at arms in that breakout room to make sure people aren't getting text messages with questions and things of that nature
That's
as
a
well,
good,
which you can't do in the waiting room.
yes.
How would you know they weren't getting text messages on their phone if they were in a breakout room? They could still
If you have them leave their camera on so you can see them. And hopefully we all practice that integrity part we should be practicing as a Toastmaster. But in theory, with cameras on, you can see people.
Now you can see if I'm kind of glancing down here and checking that a little bit before.
I might be glancing down, looking at your nails too. So
well, you could be. So yes, so you do have to watch.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know that there's a perfect way for that. I do a lot of meetings where I have 100+ people. I like the waiting room. I think it's neater and cleaner, but that's my preference. And we do text back and forth, and you can, people in the waiting room can do private message back to the person that's texted them. We haven't had any problem with that. We use a waiting room. If they don't have first and last name, we don't let them in.
Yes.
And that's pretty often because the kind of meetings I do, press will come to sometimes, and I need to know they're there.
Now you said that the people in the waiting room were able to chat with each other?
Not with each other, but they can text back and forth to my co-host. My co-host will text and say, who are you?
They can text. Okay.
And they can message back to the co-host that has identified with them. So there is two-way communication. It's just limited to my co-hosts or determining whether or not they can be let in or not.
Right. Okay. So you're using text then along with the Zoom.
Using message, I guess. I'm saying text, but I really mean message. You're doing a message. Like where you can say send message to people in waiting room. You can send it to individual.
Well, that's interesting because I know we've tried that. Might be something new because I know we tried that just a couple of months ago, and the people in the waiting room could not respond back to us. So that's good to know.
I've had the only ones we've had problems with are people that are on their phone and they don't know to watch it. They don't see that message coming in. And it's not because that feature isn't working. It's because people don't know on their phones. They have to slide those panels back and forth in order to see everything. So that has been our biggest problem, is trying to, if they're on a computer, no problem. They see the message come up just because it's a private chat. But if they're on their phone and they're not watching that little chat button, then you have a problem because they don't see it, not because it didn't go through, it's just because they didn't see it.
Okay.
Terry Ann, I do have one in the chat room.
Yes.
John asked, has anyone written down the virtual stage management for the contest? And we did let him know that there's something on the TI website that he can find that. But just to clarify, and anyone can jump in on this, you want to have a simple background. You can't have a virtual background. You cannot have a virtual background. You want to have something simple that doesn't take away from your speech. You want to be able to move left and right. So like I'm sitting down, of course I'm not moving. But if you're standing up, you're going to be standing up giving your speech. So you want to be able to move left or right, forward, backwards. You want to make sure you check your microphone so we can hear your speech. And once again, that goes all into practice. All right, so your contestants should be practicing and say, okay, this is where I'm giving my speech. You should be checking their background, making sure that you can hear them, and things of that nature like that. So,
Yes, with it being so different this year, definitely.
lighting.
It's been real easy just kind of to ignore things and just, oh yeah, they'll tell me, read all those official, there's a reason that Toastmaster makes all those official rules.
And the last thing I want to ask, I'm sorry about butting in. Someone asked about how do you kick out a person that has Zoom bombed you? So I know the co-host and host have that ability to kick somebody out.
Remove. Oh, well, that reminds me too. You use the remove button and get them out of there. Now, also as a host and co-host, you can mute someone and you can turn off their camera. This comes in very handy. I've been doing Zoom for an international conference for the last 5 years. Sometimes if people come into a conference like that, they're muted, they know that they really can't participate, they kind of forget about the camera. We had one woman take her laptop with her, decide she was going to change clothes. Shut off her camera quick enough. Nobody got to see anything. But you have to be, especially as the host and co-host, those are the things you need to watch for. Now, while I can turn off your camera and I can turn off your microphone, I cannot turn them on. I can click a button that says ask to unmute, ask to turn on video. Now, I used those 2 questions last year in contest because people would be, oh, now where is that? Where's the button? If I put the question up there, it's a pop-up. All they have to do then is hit yes. They didn't have to go down and look for, now where is that button where I turn on my video? I know it's somewhere over here. It's right in the middle of the screen. All they had to do was hit yes. That made that process easier. Somebody also mentioned earlier, the host can mute all. And yes, they can. But remember, if you hit mute all and somebody's giving a speech, you're hitting mute all because these people over here are making a bunch of noise. You're also muting the speaker. So we just recently had that happen. There was something going on. Somebody went and hit, oh, I'm just going to shut that off. I hit the mute all and all of a sudden the speaker's going. So, and you know what the fun thing is? It's just one of those little things at first that when you first do it, you go, oh, okay, I know not to do that again. I do the practice sessions.
Another suggestion, Terry,
Yes.
and all, when you have a meeting like tonight, when there are, right now we have 47 participants, so we're on more than one screen. I would suggest that you pop out the participants list, because when you look at the list of participants, it always shows the people that are like unmuted at the top of that list. So if you're a co-host and a host, you don't have to look for flipping back and forth between 47 people. You can, if Shed is making a bunch of noise right now, he's going to pop to my top of my list and I can mute him right there.
That was a really great change. I loved when Zoom did that because I used to have to scroll through all those names to try to find where is that noise coming from. Yes, with this. So now also something I like to do when I have my screen up like this, I click on participants and I can merge the participants list and the chat as well to my screen so that it's automatically just attached. I've got my little view of all of your beautiful faces, but chat and participants is just attached right there on the side of the screen. Now, when I go to do share screen, that disappears. But as long as I've got just one speaker on or a gallery view on, all of that stuff is right there and I don't have to keep bringing it back up. Okay, anything else?
There's a request for your email address in the chat.
What? Oh, okay. I tell you what, I will put that in the chat so you can just copy paste.
And I'm gonna say you had it on your slide, your last slide also.
Toastmasters. Let me find out what it is. It's Toastmasters dot D20.
I'll just show your last slide.
PRM. I've already closed it at gmail.com. Make sure I've typed right. My big fat fingers didn't get down. See? All right. That way you can just copy paste. Toastmasters.d22prm@gmail.com.
And as somebody that was a division director last year, when it came to contest, I would change the term from practice to dress rehearsal. You want to have a night ahead of time. You want to tell your participants, be at the location you're going to be at on the night of the contest. My internet at the office is a lot better than my internet at home. So Zoom is going to act different when I'm there. So think of, it's not a practice, it's a dress rehearsal. You want to have your contestants there to check their lighting, to check they don't have to give their whole speech, but you want to make sure that they look good on camera, their background is okay. You want to go through, okay, now we're going to send the judges to the breakout rooms. You just want to go through everything as if it was the night of the contest, so you can work out all your kinks so that when the contest comes about, everybody knows what they're doing. And it goes back to the old practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect.
You can also do that for your briefings for your contestants and your judges as well. I mean, at that same dress rehearsal. On the evening of the 10th, we're going to do a contest Q&A. So between now and then, you think other questions. It's going to be immediately following the treasurer's training that we'll do 6 to 7, then 7 to 8 for contest Q&A.
Someone did point out, be careful sending out Zoom links. Yes, that can be an issue. There are bad people out there who won't launch onto those and like to come in and cause trouble. That's why we use Eventbrite for this. You had to register in order to get the link. Sure, you can share it after that, but we've got to, there's still got to be ways that we can get some kind of a control and not just have it out there to cause trouble. Be sure to use all precautions. And if anybody is causing any trouble, hit that remove and get them out. Deal with it later.
All right. Well, we don't have any more other questions. I will turn it over. Terry Ann, are you good?
I'm
Unless
good.
we have any, if we have any other questions, I can turn it over to the, oh, someone had another question.
Chat.
Oh, chat.
Yeah.
So you can leave the judges out if you are doing it that way, because yes, in theory, and we can actually hide judges in the Zoom role, as opposed to when there's only 19 people in one big room and you know that 7 of them are obviously the judges. But yeah, you may want to not have the judges stand out if you're doing you decide to do a briefing at the dress rehearsal. That way the contestants don't know who the judges are.
That's hard though, because you want the judges to know what their role is and how to report to the ballot counter on the individual chat. There's things you have to explain to judges too.
Just have two different meetings.
2 different meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're different breakout rooms.
Well, you
But
can
you
have two
do
totally
see
different
the
meetings.
judges leave. I don't see how you can avoid that.
Well, the judges don't have to go to the breakout rooms during the contest.
No, after the contest.
They don't necessarily have to go after the contest either. It's just the
Okay, well,
ballot counters and the
that's
chief
the way
judge.
we do that in District 29.
We just send the ballots via text to our ballot counters.
Right.
Or we don't
And
do
then-
it text. We do it in the chat in the breakout room to the individual chats. Everybody does it differently, but it works for that. So people might suspect who the judges are, but if you have a big group, you don't know who's going where.
Exactly.
Carrie Ann, you mentioned doing some small group trainings. I would love to do a small group training that's just a contest, like a contest dry run.
Okay.
So if you do one of those, count me in.
All right, you got it.
And back to breakout rooms during your contest, you can also set up a breakout room for the speakers. And then you send all the speakers into a breakout room the same time other judges are, so they can't see who's been sent to what breakout rooms.
You can add me to that list for some training for the contest as well.
You could almost set up your training, Terry Ann, as a mock contest and just run through it. You know, hey, run through it as if you were running through a contest and make that a training session.
I like that idea.
That's a great idea.
I like that idea.
And that's the way the contest Q&A on the 10th will start.
Is it? Okay, good.
I still think a couple. I would come to a couple.
Oh, yeah.
I would.
Because what did David say? Perfect practice makes perfect.
And you come up with different questions or additional questions each time. So yeah, multiple times would be great.
All righty. Well, we're about 4 minutes out, and it's almost 8 o'clock, so we want to make sure you guys have your evening. I would like to say before I turn it over to Dan and to Joanne, another way to get involved is volunteer outside of your areas or outside of your clubs. All right. So what better way to see how things are done? For instance, Mary is here from District 29. If you need judges or something like that, please let us know. I would love to judge outside of our district. So that's how I see how other people are doing things. And that's how you see how other divisions and areas are doing things. So volunteer yourself if you have the time to be a judge or be a timekeeper or something like that for someone else's contest. So that way you're seeing how they're doing things and you're also supporting Toastmasters. All right.
And
so
also,
if anyone,
I'll follow up on Shad, if any of the area division directors need help, reach out to me. I would be more, if my schedule allows, I would be more than happy to help with any contest.
all right. So that's how we can make all of us better and a success. With that, I want to thank everyone for coming out, and I will turn over to Dan, and Dan, you can turn over to Joanne for closing remarks. Thank you, Terry Ann, for an awesome job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to all our presenters. Great job. Thanks for sharing. And like Shad said, thank all of you for coming out. If there are training needs that you see and think that we should offer, please let me know. And everybody be sure to call David because you're going to have a bunch of contests. And we're going to need a lot of help. And let me know too. Anything I can do to help out. Joanne, it's all yours. I think Joanne's still there.
I see her.
I think she may be
She's
frozen.
frozen.
I think she's frozen.
All right. So with that, I guess Dan will send us out on a good night note. But like David said, please volunteer your times. There's enough leadership that we should not be falling short on anything. All right. So thank you all for your time. Thank you for your support, and please continue to support the events, and we will continue to work on things that the members are putting out that they want to hear. Interviews and the Q&A for the contest on the 10th of February. All right. Dan, did you put out, we have an event on the 6th also of February?
Yeah, don't forget the storytelling event on the 6th. We also have the treasure training, the contest Q&A. We'll get pathways trainings online, and as Shad said, the interview skills. So be sure to check the district calendar frequently.
And this recording will be uploaded to our YouTube. Give me a couple of days.
All right.
We also has some makeup officer training on February 11th.
Thank you for that.
All right. With that, as a good artilleryman says, it is time on target. I have 8 o'clock. So shout out, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a great